What if the Spectacular Spider-Man wasn't 3D and Across the Spider-Verse, but 2D? I'm a huge enjoyer of 2D animation. I'm a sucker for cartoons and anime, as you already know from this channel if you watch it. But sadly, more so in the West, 2D animation isn't as big as 3D CG animation. And the series of movies that popularized, at the very least, implementing some 2D animation in it, were the Spider-Verse movies.
Let's start at the beginning. Earth 6-7.
This isn't to say that, before Spider-Verse there was nothing that had, some sort of 2D implementation. If there's something you always see in 3D CG stuff, if they want to implement some sort of 2D stylization to the footage, they always add 2D effects, 2D explosions and smoke, they're everywhere. And honestly, it's dope. I love the look of illustrated blasts. But what's very funny to me is that despite Across the Spider-Verse, paying so much attention to how it presents itself, there's a specific 2D animated character that is, made to look 2D, but is in fact 3D. And it is noticeable if you watched the character's cartoon, and that is the Spectacular Spider-Man. If you frequently watch my videos, you know the Spectacular Spider-Man is simply my goat. It's probably the Spider-Man cartoon I grew up with, and thankfully, I don't even have to rely on nostalgia to enjoy it, because it simply is one of the best Spider-Man cartoons of all time. So when I saw this poster, I freaked the hell out, because I'm like, what? My goat is gonna be in the new Spider-Man movie, and it's likely gonna be a cameo, and it was, but it doesn't matter, because getting to see him is like the greatest thing of all time. And lo and behold, there he is. Okay, so maybe not 100% what I expected, but trust me when I tell you, I was tweaking in that theater. Seeing Josh Keaton come back and voice the Spectacular Spider-Man was a dream come true. Just seeing him in the movie was dope. But that begged the question. We've seen these movies do 2D, we've seen them kind of emulate that style. We've seen them do stop motion. They got a kid to do stop motion. They did Lego Spider-Man. So why couldn't the Spectacular Spider-Man be in 2D? It's not a rhetorical question. I've thought up of reasons. So I can make some educated guesses, right? One, he is CG because it's just easier. The movie's in CG, the team's already CG. Why get an entire new 2D team to create this 2D character when he's gonna be in the movie very briefly? It would save time, it would save resources, it would save money because you don't have to hire a whole new team to make this happen. But then there's also the second potential reason, and that one's even crazier if you think about it, and that is that 2D animation is tough, man. 3D animation, of course, is very hard. Both are very hard, but they're very hard for different reasons, in my opinion. The pre-production process for 2D has to be really set in stone, because if you want to make corrections after things are animated in 2D, it's like, why would you do this? Do you hate animators? You're crazy. Because if you want to simply change the camera angle of a shot, the animator has to completely reanimate everything. The background has to be redone. Things have to be redone essentially from scratch. If you got picky directors in CG, if you want to just switch up the camera angle and see if this works better or that works better, you can. It's very simple. It's actually devastatingly easy. The only thing one has to consider is if the animation looks a little weird because it was animated to camera and you have to tweak the character's animation a little bit to fit the new camera angle, but it's not as bad as having to reanimate frame by frame every single thing you just did. You know what I mean? And we've all read the Spider-Verse stuff. We know that people are getting worked like crazy. We know that there's, revisions constantly. So if we want to have a 2D element in this movie, it has to be so set in stone. It's like, this is gonna happen and it's gonna be in the end of the movie. Because if not, it's a loss of time, it's a loss of money, it's a loss of work, it's a loss of art. And then there's the third reason, and I think this is the most probable reason as to why the Spectacular Spider-Man was 2D and not 3D in this movie. Can you guess what it is? It's both reasons 1 and 2. Yeah, I kind of fucked with you there, sorry. I do think that it's a mix of the first and second reasons. When you have something as huge as movie production, you have to think about every single aspect. You have to treat every single thing that could go wrong as something that will go wrong. And when it's something that specific and that time consuming as 2D animation, you gotta be like, all right, we're gonna make this guy in CG. We can make it look 2D enough and it'll be okay. And yes, I get that those are the probable reasons as to why the Spectacular Spider-Man was CG and not 2D, but to me, I really wish this guy was in 2D. He's in 5 scenes. I think we could have gotten some guy to draw it really quickly, and that's what I did. That's what I decided to do. I just wanted to see this guy in 2D again. Was that so hard? Probably, yes. You'll see why, because I recorded the process. It's very annoying, but it was a lot of fun. and I'll go through it now. And look, I know that I'm essentially building up to what amounts to 5 seconds of footage that'll show at the end of the video, but I do want to kind of go on this journey with you because I actually started getting invested in why don't we really have 2D animated movies anymore, in the West at least. So let's run through it, let's figure this out, let's get started. So how do we even begin tackling replacing a 3D character with a 2D one? Thankfully it's easy. We already have the animation done for us, we just have to draw over it. At the same time, that can be a little boring, so let's spice things up just a little bit and add our own little animation in there, kind of like how he did in the Animating Spider-Man into Invincible video. Let's have Spider-Man end up making a different pose, and then that pose will have to, continue on to the next shot for continuity. This is, though, a lot of work, so I want to say thank you so much to Sensational Nico for helping out with the animation. He helped animate in Animating Spider-Man into Invincible, as well as my indie animated series, Interstellar Ranger Commence. He's a great animator, so thank you. He helped do some of the in-betweens and fully animated some segments of this animation, and so I just gotta color it now. And as I continue, I'm remembering how tedious 2D animation is. And then I have to get into the backgrounds as well. Like here, Spider-Man is in the shot, and if I want to have my 2D Spider-Man make a different pose, it can't just be a draw over anymore. And that means I have to illustrate part of the background to hide the original Spider-Man to then put my Spider-Man on top of that. And I'm just remembering now how much work goes into backgrounds for animated movies, obviously. But when you think about it, this is just one shot. One shot out of so friggin' many shots in a movie. It made me think about how I wish I had the power of Deep Canvas, which was Disney's technology that kind of created 3D backgrounds but made them 2D. It's a whole process.
Deep Canvas allows a team of technician artists to sculpt a dynamic environment out of rough geometric shapes that they then track the camera through. And at the same time is sent over to the background painters, who take these gray shapes and turn them into a lush background environment.
But sadly, since Disney doesn't make any 2D projects anymore, this is kinda dead technology. No one's using it. But if you think about it, if they made this new technology specifically for 2D animated movies, why don't they make 2D animated movies? And then you remember, oh yeah, Treasure Planet bombed at the box office. There's a lot of reasons why 2D animation in film is not super dominant in the West, and one of the things you always hear is how it's just not as profitable. It is, and we know it is, but at the same time, there was a moment where it kind of felt like it wasn't. If we look at Disney movies like Treasure Planet, Atlantis, they didn't do amazing at the box office. Yeah, Emperor's New Groove cost $100 million and grossed $167 million. That amount isn't great, but then you look at Monsters, Inc. It cost $115 million and it grossed $579 million. CG animation at around this time was hot, it was new, it was exciting, and people, of course, are gonna run up to watch that as well. And another thing that isn't said very much is that these 2D animated movies low-key kinda didn't really have much of a chance at the box office because of the movies they went up against. We know, Treasure Planet was a box office bomb, but do you know what movies it went up against in the box office? Harry Potter, The Santa Claus 2, 8 Mile, Die Another Day, The Ring, Jackass, the movie. The first one. The movie was cooked. What an insane release. There was no way it was gonna make money. Speaking of money, I gotta make sure that this video can stay monetized, and I know that copyright claiming is a real bitch. The probability that this video gets claimed if I play audio from the Spider-Verse movie, which is, I have to show the full clip of my animation, and that's 10 seconds or so, I'm not gonna be able to play that because that's just full audio, so I'm gonna have to voice act Spider-Man. Sorry, I know you guys are tired of my voice, but I'm gonna talk a little more. Alright, so here I am, recording. My booth is my closet. So we gotta remember what lines Spectacular Spider-Man says in the movie. It's 2 lines, he barely speaks. We know it's hard. We know it's hard. We know it's hard. Oh, this guy's voice is interesting. Josh, your voice is interesting as hell. How does he speak again? Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Coming through. I am the Spectacular Spider-Man. Something like that, right? I am the Spectacular Spider-Man. The Spectacular Spider-Man. That was rough, bro. I don't know how I sounded. Whatever. I think I kind of got the tone a little bit. We know it's hard. But it's the truth, Miles. And then comes the tricky part, making everything come together. It's definitely a little tough because when compositing, you gotta make everything look clean and seamless, but thankfully, it's not something that's impossible to handle. And now, I think we're wrapped. I think we finished. So, I guess it's time to show the end result. And after that, I do have one last thought.
Is this an intervention or something? it's hard. But it's the truth, Miles.
Is that why you're here? To let me down easy?
As we wrap all this up, I do want to talk about a reason as to why I think 2D animation isn't as prevalent in the West compared to 3D animation anymore. I haven't really seen many people talk about this, and I do think I'm onto something. You take a lot of big blockbuster movies, and a ton of people complain about them. Why do they complain about them? One of the main reasons why is because they look bad. They look flat. There is a dramatic quality to films, specifically blockbusters, that just aren't as apparent these days. That's why movies like The Batman are so revered. I know this is more so live action, hear me out. Why are movies lit so flatly these days? Well, they're done this way because later on, if there are any changes that want to be made, any changes that want to be implemented, actually, I want the light that's over there, I want that light over there.
A lack of intentional lighting. Modern day movies, I just feel, are very clinical, or they're way too clean, almost like commercials. Everything is just shot safe so that the editors can tweak it later. But when you don't shape light on set, you get this boring image. And old school cinematographers, they committed to a look.
You can't really change lighting direction if an actor is lit a certain way already. So things are just lit flat so that everything in the background can change. Things can be modified until the very last minute. And what have we been talking about with 2D? It's not a last minute thing. 2D has to be set in stone very early on, and if there's going to be any last minute changes, they have to be fairly minimal, or people are going to have to be overworked to shit, right? And so that just isn't a thing anymore in the industry because the industry rewards speed. And if there's one thing that's known in the VFX CG industry, it's these higher ups going, oh, we'll fix it in post. And so if you're going to present animation to them, 2D animation to these people that can just immediately think, oh, that doesn't look good, can you just change this? You can't just do that. 2D animation doesn't work in a way where you can just move a camera and the shot is completely different. It has to be redone essentially from scratch. And in wanting to appease all the suggestions from these corporate bigwigs, and they're not suggestions, you kind of have to do them, you're gonna be wasting so much money making sure all these asks are met. So much so that it's cheaper to bypass all that and just go, well, 3D is faster, it's easier to tweak, we'll just run with that. And I feel like that is simply a huge reason as to why 2D movies aren't made anymore. I also feel that in an era where revisions and crunch time, overworking is so commonplace, 2D simply has a harder time finding its footing. Thankfully, I am seeing a greater appreciation for 2D animation, especially as, you know, the anime industry seems to be booming currently, and that's 2D, obviously. But yeah, that was a lot. I'm sorry if it was a lot, but it was a lot. Anyways, thanks so much for coming to the table. Make sure to check out Interstellar Ranger Commence, and I'll see you all next time.